Welcome back, good people, to another episode of Cover Critique. I'm your host, Zay Oliver, aka The Breakfast God, and today we're going to be breaking down Frank Ocean's DHL cover artwork. So let's just go ahead, dive right in. So, concerning Frank Ocean's DHL single and the cover art that came along with it last fall, it's been quite a while since we heard from that boy Frank. It's actually been almost a year. He's been quiet. We know how elusive he is, how mysterious, how cryptic he likes to be, and that's exactly what we're getting with this cover art, the single and the cover art especially. So, going ahead and just diving directly into the strengths of this cover art. The first strength that I want to cover, the first strength that I want to talk about is just the way that the cover art itself really kind of helps tie in and reinforce the messaging in the song itself, which is always important. That's a really big W, making sure that the cover art and the way the song sounds and feels and looks and, the way that it kind of just makes people think, them working hand in hand like they're on the same team. You would think it would be, a little bit more kind of like common sense, but it's not always that, So, I want to just give a little shout out to the designers, for this cover because, it's clear, and it should be because it's a single. So, with a really experimental and unpolished, kind of look that the cover art has to it, it really kind of accompanies, that hazy and almost kind of like drugged out, slow and creepy, but still really ethereal and transcendental, kind of feel that you get from the song. So just to sum that up, the cover art working with the song, in conjunction to, bring the listeners the same message is a clear strength. That's a big W. Strength number two, we're talking about color again. So color as it relates to psychology and what colors make people think and feel what ways. So colors being used really effectively here to signal the sort of feelings and thoughts that the listeners might experience when they're listening to the single, which is always a good idea for any designer or any artist or any photographer or anybody, doing cover art for some music. It's a good idea. I would definitely say using color psychology, especially when it relates to kind of communicating like a wintry song that has a little bit more of a slow moving kind of vibe. Something that really kind of helps to just reinforce, the melancholiness, I guess, that you can get in the wintertime with, seasonal depression and things like that, even though this is really one of Frank's more explicit and positive tracks. He's speaking about a positive experience here. But we know that when it comes to the color blue, you kind of have your good connotations and your bad connotations. So for the good, obviously with blue, you get things like trust, and knowledge. But then as it relates to the negative connotations for the color blue, you get, a little bit of maybe sadness, a little bit of longing, and that's definitely something that this song kind of feels like, if you're missing somebody or longing for somebody, or maybe just not in the most, I guess, upbeat, or energetic mood. This song is really kind of gonna help bring the emotions a little deeper out of you. It might even be a little bit cathartic, which is another strength. And the cover art definitely kind of helps to do that with, this really soft, plain blue that it uses, all over the cover. And, color psychology, when it's used effectively, that's a W, especially in my book. The third strength, as far as I'm concerned, has to do more with the compositing. So when I say compositing, what I mean is using 2D images to create a sort of photo montage or graphic, that kind of creates a sense of space and depth. So the fact that, this photo wasn't shot like this, it wasn't like he was, sitting in a chair directly in front of this big DHL poster or anything like that. It's compositing. They did their design, they did, the D, the H, and the L And what they ended up doing was kind of masking this graphic around the paper bag, because in reality this would be in front, but they masked just this portion that would be covering the bag, masked it out so you can see the bag, on Frank's head. And now suddenly, Frank is in the foreground. He's in front of, this DHL with this crazy super angular, framing device. I really like that a lot. It's really explosive and brings a lot of energy to the cover art. But it kind of creates a sense of space and depth. Like, Frank is in the front, the DHL title is behind him, and the wall is in the background. The kind of 1, 2, 3, foreground, middle ground, and background. Kind of sense of depth. And whenever I see that, especially when it's used just super slightly, like something like this where it's only used really just here, I appreciate it every time. Our last strength that I want to talk about is iconography. So we have great use of iconography with his symbols and icons, kind of just gliding across the bottom of the cover art. And, we have a lot of speculation from Frank Ocean fans, talking about these symbols, because as you can see, there's one of them that's like highlighted a little bit, and it's got this silhouette that looks just like the pose that he's making in this photo. And so the point that I'm making about these symbols is that it's honestly just a really good way to kind of help enhance the storytelling a little bit, especially I guess in Frank Ocean's case, where there is like a super mysterious and elusive story to tell that everybody wants to keep up with, but he kind of teases it bit by bit. He actually has another single that he dropped probably a few weeks or a month after this one called In My Room, with a similar look to the cover art, and it also featured, these same 13 icons, except there was a different one that was, being highlighted, being selected, and this is the type of thing that had all the Frank Ocean fans feeling like, oh, it's got to be an album coming. Album must be on the way. And each of these singles must be, like, these have to be tracks off of the album. These must be singles from the album that he's leading with, for this album rollout. Here we are a year later, and there's no Frank Ocean album. So, obviously that wasn't really the case. And who's to say? We know how he likes to get down, or maybe we don't. Maybe we don't know him as well as we think we do. But I count that as another strength, using icons and symbols to tell that story and to draw the audience in, especially with something as small as a single. It's just another big W. I really can't even explain it any other way. It's a great way to kind of use this cult following that you have, and tease a little bit more information, kind of doing the cat and mouse, where it's kind of like I give you guys a little bit just to help keep you guys following along. And it's great for engagement. And around a single, that's what singles are for. You put it out and it's like, here's just a little taste of the music, with some cool cover art that's going to catch your attention on social media, and just want to get people talking about the artist, and using the icons so stylistically, I guess you could say, on this cover and on the In My Room cover, definitely a couple of big W's right there. If we want to go ahead and dive into the weaknesses, as far as I'm concerned, we're talking about artwork here, and so art is subjective, and there really aren't too many bad things that you can say about a piece of art that don't boil down to just like, oh, that's just your opinion. But I guess from a design standpoint, thinking about how we communicate with words and images and symbols and blah, blah, blah. The one weakness that I guess I've kind of picked out here to be kind of picky about and nitpick about is just the text itself. So the fact that we have, the title of the song is DHL, just like the shipping, logistics courier service, that ships packages and stuff all over the world. You probably wouldn't know that, from these like big bubble letters, kind of just looking just like that. Like, I guess maybe if you're really into graffiti, you'd probably be able to tell it instantly, oh, this is DHL. Or maybe if you already know that the song is called DHL, then you would see that and, you know, probably decipher it a little bit easier. But, you know, for the person who maybe isn't a big Frank Ocean fan and might just be listening casually, you definitely want to make a consideration for them, letting them know what the song is called, you know. But, you know, it is definitely nitpicking because we're in the streaming era. And so, you know, what that means is that the artist's song name and the artist's name and any other relevant credits like features and the runtime and all of that stuff are all down right below the cover art itself anyway. So it's really not important at all, you know, in 2020 to have the song's name on the cover art. It's really not important at all to have the artist's name or any actual text information on the cover art, and kind of just letting the art speak for itself and be open to interpretation. So it's kind of like a little bit of a W and a weakness, technically, just, you know, as like a design stickler, like, oh, that's against the rules, you can't read the title, you know. But I mean, I'm not really crabbing about it, honestly. I mean, considering it's got like this really big explosive red, blue, purple, green, yellow, like almost kind of like a rainbow, you know, explosion acting as like a framing device for the title itself, DHL, the fact that you can't read it and it's got this crazy framing device makes it seem like it's almost kind of a bit more like just like another little abstract like accent that helps you know, make the artwork a little bit more interesting and kind of gives clues to what it's about without really giving away all the messaging. And you know, I guess when you look at it from that perspective, you know, the intention may not have been to introduce the song with this, you know. It could have just been something that looked cool and was expressive and is artistic and stylish, and so they kept it. You know, I'm sure the decision was intentional, and so I'm not mad at it, you know. Sticklers will call it a weakness, and so I guess I have to call it technically a weakness. So considering, pro tip for you guys, anybody working in any creative field or creative space, pro tip, it is always important to consider the intentions and not just the execution. I know a lot of people will say like, oh, well, the intentions really don't matter so much if the execution, you know, didn't come out so good, or if it didn't, come on now, you know, the intentions always matter regardless of execution and whether it came out the way it was supposed to. It's always important to consider the intentions and not just the execution, because we already know that in many cases, the intentions themselves, you know, they directly influence and directly inform the execution. So the fact that in, you know, this piece right here, with the DHL being spelled out, you know, in these big graffiti bubble letters, kind of the way that it is, I'm sure this was an intentional design choice. You know, they're using artistic license here and really putting both hands on the steering wheel and saying, look, you know, you can read it or maybe you can't, and we're not really pressed either way. Listen to the song, you know, figure out how you feel about it without having to decipher the cover artwork, and form your own opinion. And I can't be mad at that, you know. I can never be mad at that, you know, especially coming from Frank Ocean. We know how he gets down. Cover art is always stellar. The creative direction is always stellar. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a big role to play in the creative direction himself. And so, you know, props to him, props to the camp. And yeah, I guess in the meantime, we'll just be, you know, camping out, waiting for the next Frank single, the next Frank album. We'll just be waiting. You know, I know everybody else is. But yeah, with that said, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked, hit the like button. You know, it definitely means a lot to us. Subscribe, because we have plenty more cover critiques coming. We've got how-tos coming, behind the scenes coming, spotlight showcase. You know, there's just tons more stuff coming for the holiday season and, you know, rolling into 2021. So, you know, definitely look, tell your friends, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Hierarch Studios. Vote?
Yeah.
Oh, look, man, if you're in Florida, early voting starts early voting starts next Monday, October 19th. So don't wait until November 3rd to hit the polls, because that's when the election ends. That's your last day to vote, not your first day. So if you can vote in person, if you're not sick and dying, get to the polls, dog. I'm gonna keep it a stack. Put on a mask. I don't know if you can try to procure a face shield from now do what you can. Be safe, be smart, bring one of them little folding chairs, camping chairs. You know what to do, man. Get in line, stop playing. I know, oh, my vote doesn't really matter. Nothing is really gonna change. I know, but we can't make excuses. I don't want 4 more years of Donald Trump, man. I really don't. So get out here and exercise your right. I mean, they wouldn't be trying so hard to suppress black people's vote if it didn't mean a lot. So get out there, vote, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Hierarch Studios. And look, man, I really don't know what else to tell y'all. If you're not tuned into this next video, I don't know. Might have to send them goons to you. Send them goons to your door.
Send them goons to your house.
Send them goons.